Today is Wednesday, and the episode name is Innovation, the Race Technology, Lighting Intelligence for Manufacturers. Um, and I thought about the title of this lecture because we get bombarded every day. We get bombarded by all kinds of information, and sometimes we don't really know what impact it has on our design, and we don't know how fast the technology evolve, and like the control, the source, the material, the evolving codes. But the real question is this: is it just accelerating technology, or is just increasing the confusion? And on that, um, I had to really think about, you know, where does innovation start and or stop, and then where chaos start. So what's the line between innovation and chaos? And as a neophyte, or somebody that doesn't understand lighting too much, or doesn't been to, wow, they're going really hard at it today. Uh, it is very complicated to understand and to follow, because we have new technology that are presented to us by agent, distributor, manufacturers, and so forth, and we don't know, like, what's comparable. Yes, we're going to save some money. Yes, we're going to save some time. Yes, we're going to save, but what is it going to be in the future? What is it going to be in the maybe in 10 years and 15 years or in 5 years, you know? So we have an explosion of LED variation. We have, like linear, we have spots, we have, two module, three module, we have LED module with different kind of LED cluster in it. We have, of course, the over promising and endless control system. And I'll say over promising because I've been in control, lighting control, for over 30 years. And I designed control system, and I installed, and I repaired, and for me, it is still the biggest unknown part of lighting. And the way that it's presented, it's not only the lighting control, and that's the part where it hurts the most, because you may think that you're buying a $50,000 control system, but in reality it's 100 or 150, because first of all, you got the people that are going to install it, they're going to charge you on top, and then you have the people that are going to commission and maintain or program it. So from a $50,000 budget, now you are at 150. The other thing is that is the release of new fixtures. Every year, every 6 months, we have manufacturer releasing new fixtures. Some of them are just, I call them reheated, means it's the same fixture, they just change the lighting engine. Some of them are newly designed. Some of them, are pure and just um, direct copy, knockoff. So again, the array of new fixture is always, coming on us, and it's funny because I receive a lot of news feed from different manufacturers, and sometimes I say, oh yeah, I saw that fixture and I cannot find it, and I find one that's similar, maybe less performance, and I say, okay, well, let's look at this one. So it's very rare that you will see something that is very, very unique, and once you see it, if it comes through social media or an alternate platform, it's very rare to find back. So that's one thing that people don't really understand and look at, is how it's going to affect their, the traceability. How we're going to find it back, because there's no way that you're going to remember all the manufacturer. There's no way you're going to remember that was a 7 watt instead of an 11 watt. So, but you have an idea what the design look, and this is going to be the end of it. The other thing that changed, and that has a major impact on our design, is all the codes and regulation. Codes and regulation changed because something happened. Somebody had an accident. Somebody got electrocuted. Something caught on fire, and then the people uh, ask for justice or whatever, and then the codes get in change, and then it's get enforced, and then from that day on you gotta start with such and such and such regulation. So that's also a very interesting thing, because you may have some different code generation on your project. You may have things that were before 5 years ago, and the code was different on that particular effect or that particular product. Now you want to retrofit or you want to change it. Now you got to come in and bring something that is new. Like I said, it's not available and such and such. The other thing that, well, the last thing that I would say is that there's a ton of new material happening. There's way, well, I'm not gonna say new material because there's no such thing as new material. We all live on the same planet, so everything that we work with, we already work. But there's new application of certain material, and this makes it interesting. You see company using leather, you see company using wood, you see company using fabric. So all these new material use in lighting also have an impact on the durability, longevity, how the parts, how the fixture is going to age, and how we're going to replace or maintain or keep it, as sharp as at the beginning. Because some of these material age well, some of these material don't age too well. You have glass, glass never fades. You have leather, well, guess what? You have wood, guess what? You're attracting. You may attract termites. You may attract, more mold, etc., etc. So the issue is that now, when we talk about innovation, how fragmented it is, because decisions are made in silo. We're starting a new line of product, and they're gonna have, fabric. Okay, good. Uh, there's no category for fabric uh, lighting fixtures. So is it going to be a directional, or is it going to be a general diffuse to start? Then are we going to have accessory? What are the size? What kind of source we're going to have, et cetera, et cetera. So we today we have more technology than ever before, and less clarity. Oh, we have these fixtures now. Oh, another thing that is very interesting is that we have these fixtures that are not only lighting fixtures, but also they are sound uh, sound controlling device. Meaning they cut the echo. They will make it, because the fabric they use, they're gonna create some sound barrier or some sound management. And again, if you know anything about sound, uh, it's not a couple fixture that's going to change you know, the whole sound of a room. It may damper it a little bit. It may alter it. It may cut some reverberation, but real sound treatment are done at another level than with the lighting fixtures. So the industry, like the industry, how do we deal with this? Like manufacturers are racing to release new fixtures, right? Companies are pushing to do all the smart everything. I mean, you can control with your phone. You can do a lot of features. You can program it with, like Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, Zigbee. I mean, name it. Some are proprietary protocols. Some are wired. So we want to control everything. Now the designer, they're overwhelmed because how are we going to manage all these options? Before it was very simple. We had a light, we had a dimmer on the wall. We switched the dimmer, and it worked. Then control system came. Again, it was very simple. Now we have the client looking at an ad on the newspaper, sending us a picture, and then he says, "Okay, I would like that." But right now, what you have is this. It's a different architecture for a control system, as an example. And no, you cannot have that. They don't have these finishes or these buttons lay out because they're proprietary. So what are we going to do? Now we have to re-engineer everything, right? So and when whoever talks about engineering or re-engineering, sorry, I have a runny nose today. Sorry. Whoever talks about re-engineer a system means additional cost. Means also the engineer is the one who's going to put the seal on the system. He wants to make sure that all the components are approved, that this system is going to last, and it's not going to catch on fire, and it's also done. It's all approved and certified. So and then you have the people that are the client, the developers. Now they're gonna say what's the safest choice, because they don't know about any of the technology. They just know that they may like that aesthetic. They may like this, and your job is, first of all, demystify everything what they want. They know they can get it. Good. Then we're gonna start talking about the fixture. Now, when we talk about the fixtures in their head, you know what you're doing. Or if they send you a catalog cut or a magazine page, they think that these type of fixtures can be installed anywhere on the planet, which they can't. Okay, some of them are going to be not applicable for North America. Some of them from North America are not compatible with European, etc., etc. So the safest choice, we don't know. We got to spend some time. We got to look. We got to make sure that everything we do, uh, you know, is has a approval that is also been tested. Because the last thing you want to do, or maybe not, the last thing you want to do is a beta test place. Maybe you want to be the beta test place because the manufacturer will give you a super high discount. So in that case, you don't mind suffering with, having to, call the tech support to debug a little bug that can happen, because you really, really want that aesthetic from these control button or these fixtures, accessory, and now, uh, for that, you're gonna the price to pay is, well, they're still experimental. We can get them approved as a system because we know they're not going to catch on fire, but they may be, they may be missing a few things. There may be, not last as long as we want. So, and here's some parameter. Okay, whenever I do a design or I help a client to start, I look at 6 different areas. The first one, light source, right? Okay, so now where are we in the LED evolution? Do we have an old technology or we have a new one, right? And you're gonna understand why a little later. Now, where is it as far as operation? How is it something that the market claim, or they have a real documented life history on these LED? And also, originally they promised me they would be 50,000 hours. Are they still on after 6 months, or they start flickering, or are they changing colors? So right there, the what we talked about earlier, when we decide if we want to have a directional or if we have a general diffuse, the first conversation we're going to have when we're talking about experimentation and cutting edge technology is the LED, right? The second thing will be the control system. And in this, I will put also the driver, because some company will provide you just the LED, and then you control with their driver and their switch and their intelligent, their computer. You can control, you can switch, you can dim, you can create scene, you can adapt the lighting, and all of that is done with the control system. Now, are they smart? Are they intelligent? Sometimes smart doesn't mean intelligent, and intelligent doesn't mean smart. If you have a system that works with, as an example, Alexa, well, everything you put in Alexa is what you're gonna get out. And Alexa is not very, how could I say that politely? Alexa are not specialists in lighting. They have very many other specialty, but one of them is not lighting. They can control lights, they can learn some of your behavior, but it's not like a full-on lighting system. And speaking of Alexa, uh, you'll have somebody that compare this to a Lutron system. Well, you can't really compare the two, because one has a history and has a reputation and has been doing this for decades, and the other one came in at a certain time, and they do reliable product, but that's not what their bread and butter is. So it is always just important to understand where the source and where the control come from, and also what are they good at. And this brings me to, when we talk about control system, is how user friendly is it? Is it very complex? Is it hard to, and I need to program and enter a code and my retina or is it very easy to use? I push the button, something happens. Or maybe it's a mix of both. Maybe I have some switch on the wall that gives me this basic layer of living, and then when I want to create something a bit more, I go on my phone and I select or pick any control scene or dim or any other function that I like. The third part of these pillar is the lighting fixtures. And again, as a manufacturer, it's very important to make sure that you know sometimes the more option you have is not the better outcome. Somebody that does all the fixtures in the world, and I have a catalog that's 3 inch thick, maybe not the you know they may not put as many time or effort in each fixtures, unless they are a very old company. There's a few of them, but that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about you go to a trade show, company you never hear. They have a thickness, big catalog, and what they did is they put everything in the kitchen sink in there, and the first thing you know is that you have a lot of stuff that you think that looks good, but maybe not. It's not maybe the best outcome for you. And finally, when we talk about fixture, we like we talked before, uh, optics for me matter more than the aesthetic. Why? Because it controls the light. If we don't have a good control system of the source of the LED, we will not have the desirable effect that we want to have. So again, it's a very simple thing. If the optic is matter more than the aesthetic. The fixture can be ugly but have an amazing optic that gives you a super nice spread without spill light. Boom, done, right? and the other one is maybe super recessed, and you just see a little one hole, but you have this ugly kind of, color shift and all kinds of stuff. And since we're talking about manufacturing, and fourth position is you will meet, again, like I was telling you, you will meet manufacturers that are uh, very efficient. They have team of engineers. They have their own labs. They can give you some amazing photometrics because they have all the testing equipment. And this is a very important thing also in those pillars. And as far as manufacturing, I will push it a little further, and I will also talk about their supply chain, because you have, if you are, let's say, you're manufacturing products and you're importing from other country, you are dependent on your suppliers. If you're working with local, or if you have your own tooling and you have your own team, and you have, then your supply chain is rely on the raw material, which give you way more flexibility than having a stock of certain product. Because once the product evolve and evolve in time, you have the raw material, and you can shape it to the new trends and design. But if you order 10,000 pieces of glass and you sell 5,000, and you have a shelf full of 5,000 pieces, you got to sell these pieces. You got to get rid of them. You got to, amortize, and you got to distribute. Now, when we talk about manufacturers and fixtures, we're also talking, and I was talking about parts and optics and that, but there's also subtle part like the thermal management. And again, like the quality of a heat sink. Is the fixture the heat sink? How big is the fixture? I mean, if you have a miniature fixture, I mean, physics is there too. And you want a lot of output, you'll be limited by the physical size of the fixture to dissipate all your heat. If you don't have the room to put the big heat sink, you won't be able to achieve the promise or the performance that you promise your client. And to that, I would ask also that because of that, you will accelerate the aging of the LED, and perhaps the discoloration. And the discoloration not only happen with the LED, but also on the quality that we talked about on number 5, on the quality of the product that you source. If you source a good company of paint, and you have an amazing process of cleaning and then prepping and then painting and then cooking and baking, you will have an amazing product. And some companies are renowned for that. The quality of their product is bar none. Now, if you have little less control over it, you may end up with some discoloration, you may chips, you may have some peeling, and all kinds of stuff. And the sixth leg of my pillar is always the certification, compliance, the energy code. Does it meet? Because the last thing you want is having an inspector coming on your job, and then you have to call the manufacturer and say, "Hey, listen, you cannot find the label. Or the number on the." It happened to me once. The number on the sticker doesn't match the file that the drawing or the fixture that's on file for that number. So basically, somebody took another label and put it on that fixture and call it a day. That was quite an experience. So we have this technology, right? We have and as a manufacturer, we have to push, and you have to innovate. You have to keep the light on you. But you also have to keep your direction. You also have to keep who you are, what's happening, right? So let's take an example of tunable white, right? So now let's say you want to create a tunable white light, and then you have, you know, you want it to be, I don't know, you want to use AI to do it, and also you want it to match with a smart home system. Now, in the same sentence, AI, tunable white, and smart home, that looks fantastic, right? You look like you're gonna reach summit you never had with the technology of that fixtures. But when you look at the in reality, how you're gonna achieve that, now, are you solving a lighting problem, or are you creating one? Because if you're not part of any of these things and you want to go into that, I would call it in that arena, um, you are digging yourself in the mud very fast, and this is not going to be good for you. So what I suggest, and what I look in the manufacturer, is that slowly but surely they grow and they come in. A quicker way to do it is what we see right now. There's a lot of acquisition. You buy a company that is really really good in control, and then you integrate it with your company. Of course, there will be a time to adapt, and that's why it makes news. I mean, it's a good news to launch that we acquire such and such company that are expert in lighting, but doesn't mean that next month we're going to have a ready to go system and we'll be able to compete with all the big ones. So when, as a designer, when we talk to manufacturer, what are we trying to do is understand a common language, or understand things that we can easily transfer to some knowledge that we're used to. And this, in the old days, we didn't have to chase innovation. I mean, the light bulb that Thomas Edison invented lasts for about 100 years. uh, and we were not also, we the spec was the spec, and that was it. There was no headache on how, the performance. An A lamp was an A lamp, even if it was a 500 watt, or if it was 1,000 watt, or if it was the same. And for spec, it was very simple. What kind of fixture? Well, that was, you had an array of it, and that was the way you go. And 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 we were never driven by technology first. We were driven by, you know by, like I said, fixtures, source, and a little bit about design, because that has been a battle, and that's why, I decided to go that way. uh, and drive driving a project with design will also make the technology that we are facing with today way easier. As an example, once we know how much directional light we want and how much diffuse light and what kind of directionals, and so we can talk to the manufacturer, and we say, let's say you need a 5-degree beam angle. Well, if they can't do it, they can't do it. It's very, very, and that's the strategy. We need this. So we may have to use somebody else's product for a part of your design. Good. And then also knowing what you want to achieve, the manufacturer will have an easier time to say, here, Bob, here's the solution for your program. You mentioned that you want some directional. You mentioned that you want some general diffuse. Your general diffuse, you want to have them coming from the wall and mounted on an arm, and the directionals are mounted, are recessed in the wall, or they are from the ground up. or. So now we have the technology serving our intention. It's not the opposite. It's not, oh, you need to put some LED on your projects, or you need to put this new flavor of the month. I don't care about the flavor of the month. Is it going to do what I need? Yes, perfect. I'll put the flavor of the month. If and everything that goes with it. Is it approved? Is it this? Is it that? Da, da, da? And if it does, well, I have no problem doing it. It fit in my budget, even better. You give me a discount, I will talk about you, and so forth. So the goal is not to use more or less technology. The right goal is to use the right one, the right technology for the effect, the right technology for the project. That you're doing hospitality, you're doing medical, you're doing office space. And office space is a very, very funny thing, because if you do a law firm and they have a very high end finishes and budget, is different than if you do a low end, just get in and move. So again, it's not because you have a project that you have a smaller budget that you cannot have a good design intention, and that you cannot elevate your design game with products that are going to make it very different, because you know how to use them, and you work with the manufacturers, and they know what you need. They also know what control is going to be used, uh, and perhaps they took in consideration all your maintenance issue, uh, predictable and unpredictable. Like if you're doing an arena, there can be a lot of unpredictable things happening, because compared to a place where nobody goes, the roof and the ceiling of an arena is a place where there's a lot of activity. You have people doing rock concerts and all kinds of stuff, hanging stuff. So your fixture may get a little, ruffle a little bit, compared to an atrium where nothing happened. You put them once, and every 5 years you go to replace them or replace the bulb. So again, once you have a good design program, all this become very, very simple. And the lighting stopped becoming too technical, and it become executive. It becomes the direction, and everybody, the electrician, the manufacturers, the sales, the design, everybody works in one common direction. And that's when you start embracing innovation as an asset, not as a need, or not as a push in. Somebody push you this technology and say, "Oh my God, you need to have the latest and the greatest." No, you don't. If you know what you want, you if it fulfills what you want, good. And if the most important thing is to keep your position. If you don't, if you're a pusher, and you're driven or by money, or you're driven by just getting the job done, and you don't want to get the information, you don't want to learn, you don't want to be part of it, well, guess what? The project's going to be the same. You're going to be in a project where things are happening, you don't know what's happening, other people are taking decision for you, and your project's going to look like that. So of course, you need leadership. You're going to need to put sometimes your foot down and tell manufacturer, no, this is not what I asked for, and yes, this is what I want. Or the client has already four different complex that work on that system. Either you give me that system, or something that's compatible, and before we put it on, or we go ahead and we purchase it, I want to see a demo. I want to see it work, make sure that it has the same feature and function. So all this has to come from you. Somebody else is going to decide. They're going to decide for themselves. They're going to decide what's good for their pocket. They're going to give you the least for the maximum. And then, you'll do is you'll have a project that is accumulating technology, and you as a designer, you don't have a clear lighting strategy, and people are going to say, well, I don't know why we paid that lighting guy. I don't know. Nothing, I could have done it myself. One of the favorite phrase of one of the architect I was working with uh, is like, LIGHTBOB, I don't know why I'm paying you. All you do is little dots on the paper. And that was the funniest thing he ever told me, but the most true, because when I would create a design, and I would make my zone, then I would start to lay out the different lights, and I would put dots on the paper. And then later, when I would start to define what source and what fixtures and so forth, I will go down on my spec sheet and start to design the spec. But it would start with an idea of a balloon and say, in that area, this is the kind of feeling I want. And then I would put the fixtures, and then I would start to come down. That was the most fun thing, and this architect made me realize also that, sometimes you have to be that simple. Sometimes it doesn't need to be complicated. The other thing that I also really like to think of is that when I walk into a new project or I start working with a new team, I love to do a lighting audit. Why? Because that tells me also where they belong or where they stand in the food chain. You know, and I'm very, very sorry for my nose. But what's happening is that once, if I know that they work with such and such manufacturer, I can gauge that their level of implication, that they are hands-on and they are working and they're deciding. And in another hand, if they work with such and such manufacturer, they don't do nothing. They just send the plan, and they come out. They come up with the all the engineering, all the lighting calculation, all the specification done by an engineering department that says no equivalency, and that way I know that these person or these consultant, you know, they don't know, they don't have no idea what's going on. So yeah, so it's important to make these bubbles, and it's important to decide what it is that you want to communicate to your client and you want the project to be. Implicate manufacturers, and fixtures, and you'll see the world of manufacturing is very wide, because you have people that do fixtures, you have some that do fixture and control, you have some that do fixture, control, and accessories, some do, and nowadays, the more, like, the more the companies are evolving and they acquiring other company, and they're, getting this and they're getting that, it becomes more and more confusing. So that's why it's important to take time, speak with the people that you have access or you see, and you'll see that the problem is not the innovation. It's the lack of clarity. If you talk with somebody and they said, yes, we can do this, yes, 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 you should start, you know thinking about, wow, maybe my questions are not, important enough, or, you know this guy just wants an order. Will he really deliver what I need? Will he, because the future of your project, it's in his hand, and you don't know. You don't know what you don't know. So it is important to make sure that when you work with manufacturers, their experience, the way that they talk about lighting, their past records, and the technology they use and all of that, that and you can find out about, because maybe you're not an expert, and that will happen even to me. Sometimes there's things I don't know, so I will ask, I will dig, I will make sure that you know I go deep enough so that I understand that they master this, and I'm not just a prototype. I'm not just somebody that they're trying to do something. So basically, wow, that was quite a show. And Yeah, I mean, technology is amazing, and it will always evolve. Like I said, I work a lot with all kinds of different manufacturers in different area. I work with people in aerospace. I work with people in architecture, theatrical, motion pictures, and I can tell you the beauty of it is that everybody's got their little niche and their little specialty. And sometimes when I bring something, they say, "Yeah, well, we tried this and it didn't work." And then I bring a product that somebody else manufactured. They're like, "Oh, we never saw it that way," right? So it's important to be aware that they don't know everything, and your job also is to push to make sure that they do, and they are innovating, because it's the name of the game, and also that you're having fun while doing it. So I hope you enjoy the show. Tomorrow we're Thursday we're going to talk about, oh my god, something that I always wanted to talk about. Tomorrow we're going to talk about design and recurring fee. So that should be interesting, because this is something that I'm still working on, and I really, um, yeah, it's an ongoing project, and ongoing things with my life. So tomorrow, Thursday, we're going to talk about recurring fee and design. So hope you have a good day, and